I apologize in advance to all of you for everything I'm about to say about Rainbow Ride. If you thought my defense of Tick-Tock Clock was an absurd hill to die on, wait until you see me apply all of the same general logic here. I think Rainbow Ride is a heck of a final stage in this game. Is it hard? Absolutely. But it's also the final stage in the game. And I think it's about as hard as an endgame stage should be in a Mario game. I absolutely love the whole absurdity of the setting too. Like this random stage in the sky, Bowser's flying ship in the corner, a freaking magic carpet riding a rainbow. It's such a weird theme to a stage, and the music is the same frantic music we got in Tick-Tock Clock. And thankfully, this one is a lot easier for me to explain than Tick-Tock Clock. The biggest talking point of this stage is the magic carpet, since every star will require you to at least get on the introductory magic carpet ride, while stars 1, 2, and 6 will require additional rides as well. So right off the bat, I should say that I don't think I fundamentally agree with the general talking point that I often see in platformers in regards to stage gimmicks that require you to move at the speed of the stage, rather than at your own pace. Basically, auto-scrollers, or in this case, traveling on a magic carpet. This seems to be a disliked trope. A lot of people consider it bad game design, specifically in platformers because it slows the game down. And I don't know what to tell you, I don't agree with this sentiment. I mean, yes, it does slow you down, and it requires you to move at the game's pace. But I don't think disliking it is enough of a reason to warn it as bad game design or shrugging off the entire stage as a failure because of it. I actually welcome these stages because they create a new type of challenge that forces you to react to the hazards and maneuvers around the stage. It gives you time to focus on different types of control and reflexes than otherwise running through a stage would do. I think even people who have figured out how to control Mario in a tight space will see the stage as mundane because of the magic carpets. But even more so, players that haven't figured out how to control Mario yet will find the challenge to be near impossible. Me personally, I think it's a great final challenge to undergo. And once again, learning to control Mario on this tiny magic carpet is the ultimate test of your control of our favorite plumber. So with that precursor out of the way, the stage will make you go through a minor challenge every time you start it. So you'll be forced to learn to control Mario on the tight space prior to moving on within the later magic carpets. After the first segment, there are 3 different paths a player could take, and any one of those paths will lead to at least 1 star. You'll likely be guessing which way you're going to go anyway, but thankfully regardless of which way you head, you'll get a star for it. If you go right, you'll jump on a new magic carpet and go through your second auto-moving challenge. It'll take a few attempts to figure it out, but you'll have to do this 3 times total, so it's good to learn how to maneuver here because it'll get harder later. At the end of that carpet's route, it'll stop you between 2 magic carpets, and you'll quickly have to determine which path to jump on. The path on the right takes you to the first star, and the path on the left takes you to the second. So assuming you head right, you'll have to go through the final carpet challenge involving maneuvering Mario through obstacles that are just that much more difficult to get through while also not falling to your doom. And if you succeed, you'll make it to a flying ship and be able to grab the star. If you back up a bit to a junction with 2 carpets and head into the other direction, you'll go through a longer challenge that weaves in and out of the building that requires you to remain focused, lest you fall and get stuck in the giant house because you got burnt by the fireplace. Either way, at the end of this carpet route is the second star. After that, it's a lot more straightforward in Sans Magic Carpet. You just have to get through the first area challenge, or if you have confidence in yourself, pull off a long jump and learn to skip it altogether. Star number 3 is the red coin star. After the main segment, we previously went right to the magic carpets, but if we instead went straight across, we'd get to the red coin challenge. This is a very focused challenge. Cartwheels, wall jumps, backflips and whatnot. I see it as an easy challenge now, but I imagine most people struggled with it the first time. I think for a long time this was the only star I was able to grab in this stage though, because it was just easier to make it to this area than to head across the magic carpets. There's a specific section behind the red coin challenge that has basically the ultimate wall kick test for a player to undergo. You'll actually have to master it because the pink bomb sits on top of that wall and you need to activate that cannon for the 6th star. So the hope here is that a player will use the wall kick to get up to the top and be able to drop down for a red coin, otherwise they'll have to come back here again to unlock the bomb. Also, the wall kicks will have to be mastered if you want to grab the 5 blue coins at the end of the challenge. And you'll definitely want to master that because between those blue coins and the red coins, this whole segment will give you 46 out of the 100 coins needed. So the difficulty of the 100 coin star is entirely contingent on the blue coin switch mixed with the wall jump. I'd like to stress that here because I'm not going to go through the 100 coin star later for this stage. If you can get the blue and red coins, it's pretty easy, and if you can't, it's pretty hard. But anyway, that's about it for the red star. It's a good challenge for the final stage and is less about the search and more about your control of Mario with these different types of leaps. Stars 4 and 5 are to the left of the center of the map. When you get across, 2 different directions with different types of challenges will lead to each star, but for the most part those challenges will involve some form of falling platforms and tight maneuvering to overcome. For Star 4, you have to time some jumps off a swinging platform to make it to the star, and for Star 5, you have to go through a quick speed test as you flatten some triangles and quickly platform your way through the challenge in hopes that you can get to the star at the end of the test. Both stars do have a bit of difficulty with the narrow challenges, and both stars could very well lead to Mario falling down below. A lot. It's in my opinion a worthy difficult challenge for an endgame though. And finally, the 6th star will be a cannon shot. The cannon is on the same ship as the first star. You might not even realize it's there until you speak to the pink bomb, so hopefully you figured that out when you're doing the red coin star. But this means that you have to go through all of the magic carpet rides again and close it off with the perfect cannon shot to receive your final star in the final stage of this game. Star number 105. Prior to this stage, I concluded that 22 of the previous 98 stars were redundant because they sent you back to the hub world when you collected them. So let's see where we end up now. Star number 1 is on the ship. There is no benefit of remaining on that ship unless a player has prepared the cannon for star number 6 already. But since the game can't possibly know if a player has done that, I think it's in the player's best interest to be sent back to the beginning of the stage because more than likely, they wouldn't have prepared the cannon for star 6 yet. So although the 2 stars are in the same location, and on a repeat playthrough this could be seen as a redundant task, I can't give it a strike because most players wouldn't know to unlock the cannon prior to heading to the ship on a first go around. Also, I gotta imagine between star 1 and star 6, you'll have gotten a lot better riding the magic carpet, so you might notice a difference in how easy it was to get to the ship. Star number 2 sits atop the big house in the sky, and there's literally no benefit of remaining there after the star is collected. Sure, there is a warp in the house that'll take a player to where the red coins are, but that's not something you really figure out that easily. Star number 3 is a red coin star. I can give this one a strike. It's worse for a player to get sent back to the hub because after you pick up the 3rd star, it's much easier just to run to the center of the stage and choose to go right or left. Stars 4 and 5 are a bit tough to figure out for me. On one hand, they're in the same area as each other, even though they have different routes. But on the other hand, they are branched off from one another, and it's not that easy to jump between the two if you're not completely comfortable with controlling Mario. I'm leaning towards giving star 5 a strike because getting down from that star is probably easier than star number 4, and really I'm only giving the strike because it's actually pretty far along the stage from a time perspective, since you have to go through the magic carpet ride to get back to the area. And I'm not giving a strike to star number 6 because there's really no benefit of starting the stage from all the way up there. Again, as a final reminder, the point of me keeping track of all of these redundancies is to figure out how terrible it is that the game sends players back to the start of the stage. It's not to analyze if collecting a specific star is redundant because you have to head through the same path. As I've been discussing all throughout this retrospective, redoing paths is in essence part of the full completion of any platformer. This isn't Breath of the Wild, this isn't even Mario Odyssey. There are a lot more set routes that a player is meant to go through, and going through them multiple times allows a player to get better at traversal, take alternate routes, discover hidden secrets, and shortcuts, and whatnot. This has been a common point of platformers since the dawn of time, and that goes double when those platformers have MacGuffins to collect. I don't think it's redundant to go through a linear path over and over again because I think each time I go through those paths, I learn something new. I get better at the game, and ultimately, at the end of each of those sections, I have a new objective. I'm not repeating the same stars over and over again. I'm just redoing a lot of what happens in the beginning of the stage, and I don't think that's fundamentally an issue. I'll apply the same logic from Star Fox 64. You'll redo the opening stage over and over again with every playthrough, and there really isn't more than a handful of alternate routes you can take. But I'm not going to define my entire start-to-end playthrough of that game based on the first stage alone. It's all about the entire journey I took to get from the start to end. So even if I go through the game 10 times, and there are repeated segments at the beginning, middle, or end of the playthrough, each playthrough is still unique to its own extent. That's how I feel about Rainbow Ride, Tick-Tock Clock, Tall Mountain, and any pairs of stars in this game that are in the same area. If Mario 64 gave you a map, and that map asked you to collect every single star, then I can see why being sent back to the start would be an issue. Imagine playing Odyssey and grabbing a star and knowing that the other star is right next to you only to be sent back to the start of the stage. That would be obnoxious. But in the case of Mario 64, every star is a new challenge. And while you have a hint that could point you in the right direction, you sort of have to figure it out for yourself. That's part of the design of the game. Like I've previously said, this game is not just a collectathon. It's a platformer too. Each of these stars are not just MacGuffins, they're objectives. And the route you take to those objectives can and will converge at many points. But it's still a specified route unique to that star. Unique to you as a player. You can say it's a chore to return to. Fine, but that's not relevant to my discussion. I'd have to do another 14-part series to figure out exactly how many, but a good amount of the stars in this game would still be better to send you back to the start, even if you knew exactly where they were. On a general, casual first or second time playthrough, I've concluded that 24 of the 105 stars in this game are redundant because they sent you back to the start. 15 of those 24 are spread pretty equally across 4 stages, with the remaining sprinkled throughout the other 11. 4 stages is not even 1/3 of the game. And even within those stages, it's only half of those stages. Not to mention, Snowman's Land and Dire Dire Docks are so small that it's hardly a nuance. Jolly Roger Bay only got as many strikes as it did because of how slow the swimming was and how vast the ocean was. If someone enjoys the swimming and loves the stage and loves exploring in there, the strikes might not even apply to them. And Hazy Maze Cave is a frickin' maze, so of course it's gonna get all those strikes. But it's going to drive someone mad regardless of how you start each mission. But still, in total, out of the 105 missions in these stages, 24 stars is like 1 in 5 if you're rounding. Heck, you could even remove the 100 coin missions and say that 24 out of 90 is just barely 1 in 4. I'm not going to go through the hypotheticals of a repeat playthrough or someone using a guide, but I'd be willing to guess that even then, at most, that number doubles. And I think I'm being generous in saying that. Ultimately, the whole point when I started this retrospective was to shed some light on this modern criticism. I call it a modern criticism not because it's recent, but because it's a reflection of how modern games play onto games of the past, in an attempt to justify shrugging them off as outdated and no longer enjoyable. And not only do I think I have empirical evidence that proves that the Mario 64 experience is not nearly as outdated and not with the times as some people are making it out to be, primarily because of the redundancy of being sent out to the hub world, but I think I've also tried my best to stress that you can't judge these games with the same values. Mario 64 is not a modern day collectathon. It's a collectathon that was designed around a player starting a stage to undergo a specific objective. Applying modern rules to those objectives would actually make the game worse for all but 24 stars in the game. Not 24 out of 90, not even 24 out of 105, 24 out of 120. But hey, we'll reconvene at the conclusion. Next, we have to quickly run through the 15 secret stars sprinkled around Peach's castle.